There we go. We'll get the right month here. I had to redo my OBS before we got going, so I'm a little scrambling on this. All right, so we got this going. Remember, I'm over at profitpilot.com if you guys want to check out anything more about me and the way I trade, and the Moxie indicator, which is the indicator that I've designed and developed and I use exclusively. And then we'll get into the markets. Now, keep in mind, we have FOMC today. So that could be a thing. There's a lot of stuff going on, so let me kind of just cover it as we go through here. We have the FOMC today, which, leading up to that, a lot of times the markets just kind of grind to a halt as people are just waiting for that kind of news. We'll see if that actually happens like that. The other thing that I typically see is that it's not so much the today that matters, like, the hour after the news. A lot of times it all happens tomorrow. So just be prepared. We have now seen this twice in the last few months, that the FOMC comes out on Wednesday. Okay, there's some moving around with price, but it's Thursday that something really happens as far as the market and market moves go. So just kind of keep that in mind. And then we also have quad witching coming up on this Friday. So we've got a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of reasons for price to kind of just chew around and just bumble and grind and not really get a direction. So just be very aware of that. We are seeing things pop around a lot. And then also, I've been seeing some vaccine news come out. So good vaccine news, meaning better coronavirus stuff. So we are seeing the small caps. We're seeing some of the high touch businesses start to kind of percolate, like airlines and entertainment. And we'll kind of talk about some other places, shopping stores, retail. And then I've heard that there was a product that came out with a antiviral surface coating. This is actually pretty interesting. I need to look into it more, but that would allow things to kind of get back to normal, at least have people feel better about going out there, and that if the virus or any virus were to land on some surface object, apparently this coating helps destroy it and keep it from being contaminated and contagious. So there's another good something. So we're getting some progress along with this. And then I just saw across the wires on Twitter and stuff that I think Trump is talking about another stimulus package. I'm sure it's also being fought because this is just our politics. But I hear that there's at least now talk again about another stimulus package, so that might be kind of contributing to some of the market stuff. So it is a crazy week. It is a crazy time in the market. We've had this massive sell-off, 2 weeks ago, a week ago, and since then we've just kind of been bumping around the bottom here. And what I want to do is show you a few things. So if we look here at the daily chart, we have price coming down to the daily 50, and for now it's bounced off of it. And I was talking to one of my trader friends and I said, hey, I'm expecting price to come back down and retest these lows and do a double bottom. He's like, we already did. And I said, no, you didn't. No, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, we already did. And what he was referring to was this. He's saying this is the double bottom right there. And I said, sure, okay, for this time frame, we have done a small double bottom on the 15 or the hourly in order to bounce off the daily 50. I said, that's not the double bottom I'm talking about. I think we're going to be looking into a larger, longer duration double bottom, and I think that we are in the arch right now of that double bottom. Let me maximize this on the daily chart, and I'll show you some examples of what I'm looking at. And let's get the computer to work. There we go. Maximize. And what I'm really kind of keying off of, and I believe this is going to be important, if you notice that where we are currently, we have the 8 EMA below the 21 EMA. Yeah, it's kind of crossing, but my point is that it went below. The 8 went below the 21. It's not usually a good situation for the long side. So keep that in mind. And if we go back, actually let me add, let's do this. Let's go to this chart, because it already has the data on it. And if we just go back a few years and we look through spots to where the 8 was below the 21 also, we come across a few. Here are 2. Now, of course, every moment is unique, so kind of take that for what it's worth, and we got a lot of stuff going on in the markets. But if you look here, this is another situation where the 8 got below the 21 and price bounced off the daily 50. And what did it do? It did bounce up, but then you can see here it then started to fade down a little bit. Now, this is the double bottom I'm talking about. You can see that there's the bottom, and there's the level. In detail, this was a lower low. Fine, whatever. The point is, it was a double bottom, and it wanted to push back up. And I think this is an idea of what we're going to be doing. Now, here's a bigger one, and you can see same thing. Here was the 8 below the 21, and price, went through, but then tried to bounce off of the daily 50. Take for what it's worth. I think there was some, I forget what the situation was. Clearly there was some big news that happened. I'm not sure that that's going to happen, but just be prepared that, this first bounce off the daily 50, I think we're going to come back down and retest some lows, whatever that might look like. Now, we take this, we continue to move forward a little bit, just kind of keep looking. Here's another one. And this is a pretty good example situation as well. Okay, there we go. Let's do that. Notice that price came down, bounced off the daily 50, the 8 was below the 21, and we did get a little bit of this move up, okay? And in this case, the 8 stayed below the 21 the entire time. So when your fast moving average is below the slow moving average, that's not very good. That's the immediate trend is to the downside. And you can see here that it did kind of try to bump along the daily 50, and it eventually broke through that, and what did it do? Yet again, let me draw that better. Yet again, a double bottom, okay? And this was a higher low in this case. So a double bottom just means a retest of the low areas. We don't know what kind of low that second low is going to be, but what I'm showing you here is I think something like this is kind of likely to happen. I think that's generally what I am looking for. I'm expecting this bounce up doesn't seem very energetic, seems very lethargic, and I think we need to come back down and do some test of the lows. The other reason is, think about what we have. September is a historically weak month. And then we have the November elections right around the corner, and so I just wouldn't be surprised to continue seeing some weakness. Now, that doesn't mean, there can't be some up moves and some crazy stuff, of course. I mean, we're seeing it right now. So the timing has to be right, but that's kind of what I'm looking at, big picture. Now, this one over here, this was also a double bottom. Here was the first low, came back up like this, and then came back down. There's your double bottom. This one was more energetic, this one is better, and this one bounced exactly off of the daily 50 for the second one, and for all intents and purposes, the 8 stayed over the 21 going into this. So these are very different. This is very different than this, okay? And that's what I'm looking at, and I think that is the story that we need to be aware of. And if we look back on this screen that I like, we're, generally, I view this all, let me kind of move over this too, I'm viewing this all as not a good situation. We still have the 50 below the 200 on the hourly chart. That's a problem. And then we also have price trying to push up across the generally downtrending hourly 50, and the Moxie indicator is below 0. And then I'm starting to see some divergence, price up and then double top for now, and the Moxie indicator is just really not doing anything here. So I am seeing some overall general weakness here. Let's look at the IWM. This is one I've been looking at and trying to key off of. It is always the weakest, but we're getting a lot of strength the last few days, and I think this is because of that better vaccine news and better COVID news and all that stuff. And this is where all those high touch, high human density names, names that need good vaccine news in order to succeed, they're all in the IWM. So be aware of that, and I think that's why we're seeing a pretty good move today. But look at the daily. The daily chart also, it pushed through, but trying to bounce off the daily 50, and despite this move today, the daily 8 is still below the 21, just as I was saying before. That is your fast moving average below your slow moving average. That is generally, for now, for near term, that is a bearish setup. The other thing that I will show you is that price, yes, has crossed the hourly 50, but look, it's running into the hourly 200, and I foresee that being an issue. But we need to actually catch that right. We need to actually look for price to roll over and preferably get back underneath the 15-minute 50 before we can really short it to the downside. Now I'm going to go back to this eventually, because I'm going to show this IWM situation in relation to a couple other tickers that I'm looking at for the short side, and you'll see an example of what I'm looking for. And then let's look at the Qs. And the Qs aren't looking so hot either. We're seeing a lot of tech names still sell off and really drag the market down. And look at this, same thing, bounce off the daily 50, and the 8 still is persisting underneath the 21. Not so good. And then look at the daily hourly chart. It still can't get past the hourly 200. So if right now, It is right between the hourly 50 and the hourly 200. You know, it's trying to catch some support here on the 15-minute time frame with the 15-minute 50, the 15-minute 200. But again, you know, we'll see where that goes. You can see tech didn't move today. The IWM did move, and the SPY is kind of somewhere in the middle. Funny enough, it's kind of like things have really changed, right? A little bit of that sector rotation that I've been talking about, and of course now we're seeing this sector rotation during the most difficult time of the market, naturally. All right, so where do we go? Well, let's just do GLD. A lot of people have been talking about that. I do see gold. I mean, it is it's a little unnerving how easy this is looking, right? Now keep in mind also the FOMC can have a lot of volatility when it comes to gold, because they talk about interest rates and they talk about other things, and it messes with gold a lot. So just be perfectly aware that there might be a lot of volatility today and tomorrow with the FOMC in relation to gold. What I have been looking for, you know, we've got price bouncing off the daily 50, and what I've been looking for is this situation right on the hourly. The first move here into the hourly 200, figured that one was going to get rejected. Usually the first time it does. That's why I'm also talking about the IWM running into the hourly 200 and probably getting rejected. Then after that, I look for price to be supported by the hourly 50, and it did. So then once that happens, then I want to see price actually get past the 200, and it's doing it. So far, everything I want to see on GLD is happening in exactly the way I'm looking for it. So picture perfect. If we look at GDX, we got into this the other day, and yeah, it's looking fairly good. I generally prefer when price starts to move, I prefer to have price engage with the 15-minute 50. Well, because we have the FOMC today and because this is gold related, I'm willing to have this thing fudge a little bit, and I at least want to see price stay above the hourly 50, you know, bounce off the hourly 50, something like that. But overall, everything's looking good. We've got the Moxie indicator up compared to price flat. There's your divergence. And again, if anybody's wondering what the Moxie indicator is or what I do and how I trade with it and all that, go to profitpilot.com. We've posted a link in here, and that's where you can learn more about it and you can trade the way I trade. And then you come out here and yeah, now we have, look at this, we bounced off of the hourly 50, the Moxie indicator above zero, everything's looking really good. The 8 is over the 21. Moxie indicator is above zero in green. We've got a squeeze. I mean, as I said, it's a little uncomfortable that this thing is looking so good. It's like too good to be true. So I'm just not going to be surprised if anything comes out of left field when it comes to gold because of the FOMC and whatever. But overall, gold, GDX, man, they are looking good. And then silver is also looking pretty good. I've got a little bit of I got an alert here just in case it breaks down, but it too is looking good. I was looking for price. I want to see it stay over the hourly 50. The Moxie indicator is lagging, but you know, we'll see where that kind of goes. There is still a bit of a distance between price and the daily 50, which is kind of what I'm viewing as, you know, it might be a little too premature for this to get going, which is just, this is just kind of an observation, just a feeling thing. This is why I'm just a little wondering about gold itself, because typically metals move together. Like if gold's going to take off, then silver is going to take off, and vice versa. And it just makes me wonder what might be up metal's sleeve, because this is still lagging, and there might be a little bit too much distance here on the daily chart. So we'll kind of see, but overall, you know, it's been, you know, as long as it can stay above the hourly 50, it has not, I will say this, it has not bounced, it has not tested the hourly 50 yet. So this too could be an issue. I wouldn't be surprised to see price kind of maybe come down like this, meet the 50, and then go. And that would also create that pullback for GDX that I've been talking about, and just kind of tell you that that's the surprise that I wouldn't be too surprised about if it happened. But overall, you know, it looks like it's constructive, going sideways and trying to build up. So doing okay. All right, so then let's see, where else do we go? Let's talk about Amazon. Boy, having a tough time, right? So the indices, the indexes have actually, you know, tried to bounce a little bit. Things like Amazon have not. These things just have not bounced. They continue to kind of melt down a little bit. 8 underneath the 21, just pushing through the daily 50. I see nothing here on the Moxie indicator. I see a little positive divergence here on the 15, but really if price continues to stay underneath the hourly 50 and underneath the 15-minute 200, then these things are going to get pushed down, and these are the big names. They're going to be, guiding the market. Let me show you an example of what could happen. Let's look at Spotify. SPOT. Here you go. See, this is what could happen to Amazon and I suppose Apple and the Qs in the market is see how they had this level? It looked like a double bottom, right? Well, a double bottom, like a failed double bottom right here, is just a resting area while people decide what's going on here until it breaks. And you can see here, continue to break. How do we know that was going to keep breaking? The 8 was underneath the 21, and price was underneath the 15-minute 50 the entire time, and it just got pushed on down. So be aware when you keep seeing these things, a failed double bottom is just a rest until it fails even further. And one of the ways that I know that these aren't going to go up is because, well, it's still underneath all of the moving averages. Another one that I was thinking was Shop. You can look at Shopify. Does this thing look like it wants to go up? I don't think so. Not looking like it wants to go up at all. Keeps pushing below the daily 50. The 8 is below the 21. And look at this. It is bouncing right into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50. And here's a level. Wouldn't be surprised if that breaks. Here's a level. Wouldn't be surprised if that breaks because it keeps getting pushed down by these things. So yeah, JR, another one. Guys, let me know if there are any kind of tickers that you want me to look at today and see if there's anything that I'm missing and that we need to be aware of, made aware of. Let's see, ITUB. I have not heard of that one. So is that a bank? Looks like it's an international bank. Still wondering about these things. Banks haven't really gotten going. And I'd be curious to see if they do anything after this current FOMC meeting, if that changes anything. But I do see what you're looking at. Here's your leg, heel, here's the arch of your foot, there's the ball of your foot, there's the elf toe. That is a double bottom. I'm also seeing that that is a trampoline move, price below the 50, the Moxie indicator above 0. And if you look even further, there's a elf shoe double bottom even in here. Here's your leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot, there's your elf toe. So if this is going to work, I'd really like to see this thing continue to follow along the 15-minute 50, and this looks pretty good too on the Moxie indicator. And then at some point this just needs to stay above the hourly 50, keep in touch with it, bounce along it, whatever. But yeah, this is looking pretty constructive. I'll just make a note of that one because it doesn't look too bad. TUB, interesting name. But when it comes to the financials, like XLF, they're just kind of not getting anywhere. Now, maybe they start. As I said, I'd like to kind of see where these things go after this FOMC meeting. But they have had troubles getting past their daily 200, but they continue to find support at their daily 50. So when you see price generally come down into a wedge like this, one of these moving averages is going to win. Now, honestly, I would probably put my money on the daily 50 winning, but we need to make sure that actually happens. Because a lot of times when I see this, like when price doesn't want to go lower, it goes higher. And so as long as the daily 50 continue to be support, it will eventually push up through the daily 200. And you at least have the 8 over the 21. So that is constructive to the upside. We are starting to see a level and kind of move up. Moxie indicators trying, it's a little bit, trying. But it has yet to really engage with the 15-minute 50 or engage with the hourly 50. So, I'm still just a little bit reluctant to actually buy in on something like the XLF or the banks right here. With that, JPM, not doing much, right? BAC, kind of not doing much either. It's trying. It's not really falling apart, but it's trying. And then you have Citi. Whoops. Something happened there. So just careful what's out there and make sure you kind of use your stops on these things. Let's see, Workhorse. This has been a very, very challenging one for me to trade. I tried it several times in through here, and then I personally just have an issue trying to go long when I see the market looking kind of rough. So this last one I did make about 5% off of. It kept going, And for now, I've just said, hey, I'm out of it. So far, it's been doing pretty well. It hasn't exactly followed the 15-minute 50 here, but since then, it's been on track. It is getting a little extended, but I keep saying that. Usually, when price still hasn't touched the hourly 50, that's getting extended. It's getting up there, and you can see here on the daily chart, it's really quite outside of the third ATR. If I'm right about what the market's doing, if I'm right about the market eventually rolling over and retesting some lows, that should pull workhorse down, and that'll give me and the rest of us a pretty good, clean opportunity to get in. So if you are in this, and Wendy, I assume that you probably are, just make sure you know where you want to get out if this thing starts to roll over. How much do you want to give back? Or what is your line in the sand for knowing when this thing has stopped going in an up direction on whichever time frame you need? But so far, so good. Just be aware how it might get affected if I'm correct about the market rolling over. Let's see, MRK, Merc. I don't really like what's happening here with the Moxie indicator, but that can kind of be delayed on the hourly chart. And for now, as long as price can continue to stay over the hourly 200, that's great. And eventually, if this is going to keep working, I want to see price engage with the hourly 50. So we're making progress. It found some support at the hourly 200. Now we need to see it find support with the hourly 50 and actually use that to move it up and have price keep climbing, climbing, climbing. So far so good with that one, as long as it just doesn't break down. Let's see. So Nathan, yeah, metals versus the indexes. Yeah, I pretty much covered that. You're saying I want to go long metals and short the indexes, but lately they've been moving together. Will they actually diverge finally? We never know. And that's why you need to use your indicators and your moving averages. So I could see them diverging. If the market goes down, maybe the metals are going to be a place for safety. That is definitely a possibility. So keep that in mind. And I'm also, for now, not really looking for the market to implode. I, for now, am looking for the markets to come back down and retest previous lows, kind of that low area that I talked about in the beginning of the session. So as long as the market really doesn't fall apart, then I could see the metals kind of being able to do what we call honey badger, kind of do their own thing and keep staying up. But you got to make sure the metals stay above these moving averages, stay in a trend with these moving averages. If they don't, then get out. If they fail the moving averages and if they get underneath and get guided down or pushed down by these moving averages, then the trend isn't working and you get out and you try again later. All right, space. I haven't looked at that one in a little bit. Is it doing much? It's close. I keep talking about this one. It's close, but I'm not so sure. I just don't know. This would be just about the place where I would be willing to go in if I were to go in. I have been looking at this as it's been trying to find support at the daily 200. It didn't hold it here, which is right back here. That's when price could not hold the hourly 50, so it was never a trade for me. And then I saw it shoot right back up, and I said, don't worry, it's not here yet. The problem is that, number one, right in through here, price hadn't tested the hourly 50, has only crossed the hourly 50, so it's not ready yet. And I saw that we had the hourly 200 overhead that price was likely to run into, which it did. And then we also had the whole market kind of jostling around and moving down at the same time. So you could see as price ran into the 200, it broke off the 15-minute 50 again. So I said, I'm still not in a trade here. And then it continued to not hold the hourly 50, and it continues to also get rejected by the hourly 200. So it's been doing this ping pong thing back and forth between the 50 and between the 200. And you can see as this keeps getting closer and closer together, which one's going to win. As I said before on that other one, I think one of the financials, the bank, I imagine that the 50 is going to win. I'd like to see it actually happen. So if we were to go in on this, you can see right here that price is finding support at the hourly 50. And if it can sneak out from underneath the hourly 200 finally, then there could be a move to the upside. Looks like right here, if this works, this is what I call a trampoline move. That is when price is below the 50, but the Moxie indicator is still above zero. It's red, but it's still above zero. And so that's what I would do. And if you wanted, let's see, if we were to go in here, I would set my stop just below the hourly 50 because at this point, I'm going to need this thing to work if it's going to work. And I am still concerned about the market and maybe the market could drag this thing down. So just be prepared. We could have just a little bit more chop and who knows what, but give it a shot. Set a tight stop. Know where you need to be out if it's not working, and if it doesn't work, then we can try again later. But so far, yeah, looks very interesting. And let's see, Tesla, boy, Tesla just off in its own planet, right? I've been talking about this one for a little while. Good example of that 15-minute trampoline move that I just spoke about on space. Here's the same situation. Here is price below the 15-minute 50 and the Moxie indicator above 0. This is the same thing I just referenced with space. And again, I know I'm probably talking specifically about the Moxie indicator a lot. If you guys are wondering what it is, go to the link that we shared in the chat, profitpilot.com, go to services. You can see that I have an alert service and I have a Moxie indicator with a class, and I teach you guys how to trade using the Moxie indicator and everything that I'm showing you right here. That being said, what I can see here is here's your leg, here's your heel, here's the arch of your foot, there's the ball of your foot, there's your off toe. Now, for now, you know, somebody was asking me the other day about a target. I don't really do targets. I have no idea what kind of target would be, but just be aware that, you know, this previous price area, this all-time high, probably a reasonable area for people to start taking some off, or those who bought all in through here for the stock split, they lost all their money and now they're getting it back, and they are going to be selling as they are starting to get back to break even. So there's going to be just a lot of natural resistance right there. Also keep in mind, price is over the hourly 50, the Moxie indicator is below 0. That is not really a good long-term situation. You know, as I said, I like to see price engage with the 15-minute 50, and then I need to see price engage with the hourly 50, and there is a big distance between price and the hourly 50 that price could come back down to. So we have only gone long on a 15-minute time frame. We have not gone long on an hourly time frame, so be very aware of that, there could be a move to the downside. When and where might that happen? Typically, I use the 15-minute 50 as my guide. So if price continues to stay above the 15-minute 50, great, it'll keep going up. But pretty much as soon as what I've seen is when price breaks the 15-minute 50, that's when the show's over and Tesla might start moving down. So hopefully that helps you, Abe, as far as the direction that I'm seeing with that. And then we'll look at Apple, and we'll kind of move on because I think I pretty much covered all the bases for today. Especially if anybody's tuning in late, be sure to check out the first few minutes of this video once it gets recorded and posted, and I go through the markets and kind of what I'm viewing as far as the markets go. So Apple, same thing. You know, Apple is basically the Qs. 8 underneath the 21. It's barely bounced off the daily 50. I could definitely see Apple going lower, and same thing here. Price getting rejected by the hourly 200, and also price trying to go up across a downtrending moving average. The Moxie indicator very much below 0, running into the moving average and staying underneath the moving average. I'm seeing a lot of weakness here. I don't see a reason for things to bounce, and you know, I could see these things breaking down to new lows, which is why I think that any up move in the market is probably going to get sold into. So be very careful if you're playing things to the long side, and I would generally start looking for some moves to the downside. It might take a few days, who knows how long. I've got a lot of chaotic things going on today, but that's my general stance. So that's my time. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you had a good time. Appreciate you guys always talking and chatting with me, because that really helps me kind of engage with you and make sure that I'm providing a good service for you. As I said, come check me out at profitpilot.com. We'll post the link in here. Tom, sorry, Moxie is not available on TradeStation. We have tried and tried and tried. I have so many programmers look at it, and apparently, however TradeStation is built, there is a fatal flaw with Moxie on TradeStation. So that doesn't work. But yep, go check it out. It's profitpilot.com, and we will see you all next week. Thanks again.